Welcome back to the Category Mistake. I'm your host, Richard Mariello. And tonight, originally I was going to talk about something more pleasant and positive. Maybe this is pleasant and positive compared, depending on who you are. Last week, in our year of our Lord 2024, there was a presidential debate. And it was disgusting. It wasn't disgusting for what they said, because both of them said lots of things. It was disgusting because as Americans, we've always had choices that maybe we don't always agree with, maybe we don't always like, but we understand that the choice we make, maybe something good will happen. Last week, most of America saw that we have no shot. So I was looking up a weird statistic because, well, that's what I do. And the president we have right now is the oldest ever in history, followed by the guy who's running against him, who was president last. Before that, it was in the 1980s, and that president was, 13 years younger than Joe Biden is today. So, and we called him old. Okay, we called him old. Then you have to go back 200 years, well, 150 years, the start of our country. And then most of the guys are in their early 60s, late 50s. Late 50s is the average. Between 50 and 57 is the average for most of our presidents. And it's crazy to think of this because right now we're choosing a person who's supposed to be the figurehead, the face of America. And what we have is Joe Biden, who's the president right now, who the other day didn't put to rest anyone's thoughts that he was losing his mind a little bit. Now, he's 82 years old. He could be losing his mind because, he was born during World War II. Nothing negative. People at that age, they get cognitively declined, and that's what happens. Against Donald Trump, who's, 76 years old. The average lifespan for a man in America is like 72. So they're both older than the average lifespan. They both didn't discuss any issues. They both didn't make any real sense. And a lot of people thought, going into this debate, former President Trump was going to have to be quiet, be civil, or he was going to look bad. No one thought President Joe Biden was going to have that issue. So President Biden, during a lot of his key points, started mumbling and making no sense. To the point where President Trump said, I don't know what you just said. And I don't know if you know what you just said. And he wasn't being mean about it. He was being truthful. Most Americans probably didn't know what he was saying. And then President Biden said some things that really irked or irritated people the wrong way. He stated that no one died in the military while he was president in a war zone. Well, one of my podcasts is about my thoughts on Afghanistan. The president pulled the troops out of Afghanistan. 13 Marines died. That's during his watch. 3 people died in January in Jordan. That's at least 16 service members who died overseas while he was president. And he said no one had. That's a big flub. Because that's 16 families that basically were just told by the president that their people, their family, their loved ones are so unimportant, he can't remember. And that was a negative statement. He also said he killed Medicare. Medicare is still going. It's fine. Faux pas. They also complained about they try to tout each other's golf game and who swung better. When I'm worried about inflation, taxes, what my kids are going to do, what my grandkids are going to do, student loan debt, housing market, if my grandchildren are going to have a country to grow up in that isn't so expensive they can't afford to live, and they're going to, the fate of the world and all the wars between Israel and Palestine, between Ukraine and Russia, between Iran and everybody, between China and Taiwan and North Korea, South Korea. I mean, North Korea is dumping trash into South Korea by balloons. The world is a hot mess. And what we have right now is two men who are talking about their golf game and who has a better handicap. That is not what any of us in this country signed up for. After watching the debate, I thought to myself, if I was still teaching today, how would I talk about this with my students? And I talked to my students about the insurrection. I talked to them about January 6th. I talked to them, I said, it started off as a protest, and some people did bad things, not caring about the other people and what it would do to our country. They were selfish, they were immature, and they did lots of bad things where people got hurt, and I cannot condone that at all. Being violent during a peaceful protest makes that peaceful protest no longer peaceful. Okay? On last week's debate, if I was teaching about it, it'd be difficult for me to tell my students what I actually thought. Because here it is. Joe Biden, the president that is president right now, is being used by his handlers and by his family to be president. He should not be running. Okay. There's other people who can run. Anybody else. Okay. Not a horrible person. I don't care, left, right, or center. He's made mistakes. All of us have. He should not be running in the condition he's in. If he makes it to 86 as president, there is no way in my right mind I can think that he can make decisions that are in the best interest of our country. Not to say anything about former President Trump. Good, bad, or ugly, President Trump is not a good person. Okay? I thrived under his administration personally. But there are things in his personal life, there are things in his life, the way he handles himself, that makes my stomach turn. I didn't care for President Clinton. I didn't care for one of the President Bushes, the second one, that much. I didn't care a lot for Obama sometimes. I never thought to myself, President Obama's doing stuff that makes my stomach turn. I never thought to myself, President Bush is doing things that makes my stomach turn. The only thing that Clinton did was he cheated on his wife. That was the part that I couldn't forgive. I'm married. I love my wife. And I could never see anyone cheating on their wife like that in the position of power he was in, and he got away with it. I couldn't do it. I couldn't even fathom how to do it. But his policies were good. Most of them. But as a man, he wasn't a good person, I don't believe. Trump, he had some policies I didn't hate. He created jobs. He lowered inflation. He stopped a lot of spending that we didn't need to have. But he's cheated on his wife, admittedly, multiple times. He's paid people off. He has lied on his taxes. Now, Jon Stewart's lied on his taxes. The Clintons have lied on their taxes. Everyone lies on their taxes when you're that wealthy. Everyone has put out there that, hey, I'm worth more money than this, to make yourself look good. That's normal. The taxes part, whatever. That's how they're going to get him. Just like Al Capone wasn't getting because he was a mobster. It was because he screwed over the IRS. But Trump's made some dumb decisions that has impacted not just his family, which I think is the most important, but our country. He doesn't think before he speaks. He acts like a 5-year-old who has not gotten his way, and he's stomping his feet up and down and waiting until someone gives him what he wants. The problem is he's going against a man who mentally I don't think is capable of understanding every day what he's doing as a leader of the country with the most nuclear bombs. Being in control of the nuclear weapons, one of the most sophisticated armies on the planet, if not the most sophisticated army on the planet, being in charge of a large economy with lots of differing personalities and not understanding what's going on is not a recipe for happiness and joy. So I'm kind of on a crossroads right now. I don't know who to vote for. If Trump would just be respectful of women, of other people, and be who he has been in the past, the good parts in the past, I could support him easily. If Biden could talk in a way where I didn't believe either someone was speaking for him through his ear or a teleprompter, or he didn't have note cards right in front of him, it would be easier to support him. But right now I'm going, what do I do? I've always told my students, my children, everyone I know, you need to vote. You need to vote because you can't complain about the system if you don't participate in it. Positives. The Congress runs America. They make the bills. But Congress is so divided because of the two candidates that are running for president. The Democrats hate Trump, and if he gets elected and they win the House and the Senate, nothing's going to pass. The Republicans hate Biden. So while they've been in power, nothing's really passed because Biden will veto it if it's not passed good enough. So anything either side wants to do, if they don't have a president in power to make it happen, it's useless. The Supreme Court is just changing the rules all the time. And some people are like, I want to change the Supreme Court. We've had this 3 tiers of power since the beginning. And when the Civil Rights Act was passed, when slavery was abolished, when women got the right to vote, all these things that were changed from the original 10 Bill of Rights. Every time this happened, someone got ticked off. Someone said, we're going to impeach the Supreme Court. We still haven't. Ever since the beginning, people have wanted to complain about what the Supreme Court does. The reason they're there is they're not supposed to care about what party they're a part of. They're only supposed to read and interpret the law. I don't know if they know how to do that right now. Some of the rules they're making make no sense to me at all. They just are making things up sometimes, I feel. And I don't want to get rid of the Supreme Court. It's almost... Supreme Court only takes up cases that are brought up before them. Maybe we should stop sending the Supreme Court cases that have absolutely nothing to do with the things they're supposed to be in charge of. It shouldn't matter. Presidents, do they have immunity when they're president? Yes, unless they're impeached in office. That's how it's always been. Nixon resigned, and that was it. They didn't bring up criminal charges afterwards for things he did while he was president. Lots of presidents have done lots of bad things while they were president. They get away with it because they're president. I'm pretty sure JFK did some things like, I don't know, the Bay of Pigs, where, when he sent operatives to carry out an assassination of a world leader, which is against the law, no one brought up Kennedy on no one tried to impeach Kennedy. And right after that, we had the Cuban Missile Crisis, which made Kennedy look even better. And that's what I struggle with too. Say Biden gets reelected. He's going to be 86 years old when he gets out. Maybe everyone's wrong about him and he's just he's really bad on camera, but he's good behind the scenes. if the Republicans win the House and Senate, no matter how many goodwill issues he has, nothing's going to pass. Maybe Trump gets reelected and he does a lot of great things. He's powerful, he's strong, he gets his head out of his tuchus, and he does good things. He has 34 indictments for basically tax fraud. Okay? Then you think to yourself, well, there's a third candidate, Robert Kennedy. Robert Kennedy would be a Democrat running for president if Biden wasn't running. So he decided to run as an independent. It's kind of like Ross Perot in the late 80s ran. He would have run as a Republican, but George Bush was there. Same thing. Ross Perot took votes away from Bush. Probably Kennedy will take votes away from Biden. And he's not going to get elected. We have 75-year-old men and older running for president of this country. Members of Congress are just as old, if not older, than the president. And they've been in power for 30, 40, 50 years. They never leave office. And because of that, they don't even care anymore. Nancy Pelosi, Mitch McConnell, they've been in power for so long. They really don't, it's more about showing off than getting stuff done. And that's not how our system works. The president has a two-term term limit, which Washington did first. It didn't really become a rule until after FDR because FDR kept getting elected. Presidents serve eight years. That's what they do. Congress can be in power forever. They can be in power till they die if they keep getting elected. And there's a movie back in the 80s, I think it was called Distinguished Gentleman with Eddie Murphy. And he had the same name of a congressperson who died. So he put his name on the ballot. And everyone just checked the box because, well, that's who we always vote for. No one even knew who he was. And that's sad. It's sad because no one's changing it. I looked into running for city official, and it's not worth it. As a normal person, there's no reason to run for office. The money isn't good unless you corrupt yourself. The hours are crappy. People either love you or hate you, and you can't live a normal life. If you sell your soul and sell your values, you can probably make money on it. If you decide to stand up for yourself, you'll be out of office pretty quickly because no one's going to support you. You have to say yes to everybody and lie. I can't do that. So this November, I have no idea who to vote for. And I've talked to my kids about it, and I have older kids, and it's funny because a lot of them are very left-leaning in their thoughts, in their values, in the way they do things. And the debate, they didn't say, oh, wow, Biden did amazing. Isn't he great? No, they all said, what the hell are we going to do? One of my kids, Morgan, she's like, I don't know. They're both bad. And I don't, and she's pretty left-leaning, but she doesn't have a clue what to do. And I don't have a clue what to do. I don't have a clue what to do, and I've always been able to filter through all the stupid and get to the raw material. What does this person stand for? What do they want? What are they looking for? I don't know. And that made me think of history. Back in the day, we had Andrew Jackson, who was an absolute crazy man. He was Trump before Trump. He threw a kegger at the White House during his inauguration where he had to get Secret Service to get him out of there because it was so bad. He couldn't even finish his own party, William Henry Harrison was 68 years old. He was president for 30 days because he got sick and died. Okay? But looking at these guys, and I'm thinking to myself, Thomas Jefferson, not a great guy, did a lot of stupid things, had some issues. He was 57 when him and Washington and Hamilton and Franklin and the other founding fathers were writing up these documents. I don't think he thought, hey, we're going to have a president one day who's 82 years old. We're not going to have a president someday that has had 3 or 4 wives with 12 to 15 mistresses and everyone be okay with that. No one. No, I doubt they ever thought that. When Teddy Roosevelt ran a second time, because he ran, lost, changed parties basically, and then ran again and won, he probably didn't think about, hey, this is going to be something someone's going to do, but they're going to be 40 years older than I am when I'm doing it. That's the thing. We're stuck between stupid and horrible. And I'm looking through history, and I'm trying to find a world leader in the last 300 years that has had these negative attachments to them. Mussolini wasn't old. Stalin wasn't old. Hitler wasn't old. Churchill wasn't that old. All these leaders were not that old. The Queen was older. She had been in power for a long time. But she didn't run the government. Parliament runs the government. The Queen does certain things, but she didn't control the nuclear football. She didn't control the armed forces to where you had to think, is she cognitive enough to understand this? I think she was anyway. She's more cognitive than the other two guys we had to choose from. But normally, when you get into your 70s, 80s, you're not running a superpower. You're not running something like this. You're spending time with your grandkids and your great-grandkids. You're vacationing. You're chilling out in Florida or Delaware or wherever the heck you want to travel to. You don't care about day-to-day activities of people in Congress or people in Detroit or people in Pennsylvania. You're not on the campaign trail telling people how fit you are mentally. If you're telling people how fit you are mentally every day, you're probably not that fit mentally. Just putting that out there. If I tell every day, tell people how amazing I am at something, it probably means I'm not that good at it. It probably means I need to feel good about myself. So, hey, I'm going to tell you all how awesome I am. The president right now, that's what's happening. He's going around, his wife's going around, other people are going around saying, he's great, he's energetic, he's full of life, he's sharp as a tack. Well, everyone saw he wasn't. And everyone's scared. They don't know what to do. Because again, if you have morals, it's hard to look at Trump and be like, oh yeah, he's the best option. And right now, I hate to say it, I might have to vote for Trump just because I think he might last longer in the White House. I don't want, and this not for any reason other than their beliefs, I don't want Kamala Harris to be president. I'm worried about that. I'm worried about it because her views on a lot of things are very, very, very bad in my mind. She and the president both have a history of being very negative towards some racial things. They say they're for one thing, but their history says they're not. And all we have to go off is history. The president, for the longest time didn't support gay marriage. Okay. For the longest time, he wrote something called the Crime Bill, which put lots of people in prison, mostly men of color. Okay. And because of that, you would think the African American community, the black community, would not vote for him. But then he makes statements like, if you're not sure who you're voting for, then you're not really black, which makes no sense at all. None at all. Why would you even say that? But he does. He says it. And then you think to yourself, what does he mean? That's not the way to just talk to people. That's not what you want. But that's what he did. So what's your thoughts? Do you have a candidate I should be looking for? Is there someone out there that will save the day? Because right now, I don't see a lot of people out there coming to save us. I hate to say it, but Roman Empire, the Greeks, the Mesopotamia, everybody. They've always had these runs of hundreds, if not thousands of years. And then leadership starts crumbling and the society crumbles. We might be the shortest lived superpower in history. Because, Russia is still going strong. Everyone knows who their leader is. They might not like him, but they know who it is. The Roman Empire lasted a long time. The Greeks even longer. The Persians, the Mongols, all of them lasted a long time. And we're just babies. And right now, we're acting like babies. So that's what it is. That's your choices, America. The baby or the old man in diapers. Both of them wear diapers. It's just how big and how mature they act. One doesn't know anything but the ice cream that he likes, and one likes to sleep with anything that might say maybe. Those are your options. Good luck. It's Richard Mariello. Talk to y'all next week. I hope and pray you all have better time making choices than I've had right now.